film fans, I'm Jack Benner, and welcome to my review of A Quiet Place Part 2. A Quiet Place Part 2 is the new horror sequel to the 2018 predecessor, with John Krasinski back as director for this, and starring Emily Blunt, Millicent Simmons, Noah Jupe, and Cillian Murphy joining the cast. Set after the first movie, where the Abbott family are forced to survive past their farm and into the unknown, while they are still hunted by the creatures that can only hear and doing whatever they can to survive, they come across other survivors like Emmett, played by Cillian Murphy. Now, I thought the first Quiet Place was great and such a pleasant surprise. I definitely thought it was one of the more unique horror survival movies I've seen in years, and I really loved how it used sound in such an intense way that had me on the edge of my seat. And I loved what John Krasinski did as a director. Although it wasn't his directorial debut since he directed two smaller movies prior to this, I thought it was a great film to see Krasinski's skills behind the camera. And when I heard a sequel was announced, I was excited. Was interested to see what they could do after the events of the first movie. And last year, this was one of the movies I was looking forward to until COVID happened and this movie got delayed, as well as many other movies. And so it just kept waiting and waiting for the sequel to come out. Now it's coming out this year. I remember it was going to come out in September this year, but luckily it came out early, now in May. Despite that my excitement was still intact for this sequel, I was a little worried. I was still hoping this sequel would have the same tension and suspense the first movie had that made it so good. Now that I saw Quiet Place 2 recently, I can gladly confirm it was definitely worth the wait. Such a great sequel, and surprised to say, I thought it was better than the first movie. There were definitely things I loved about this sequel that made me admire it more than the first movie. First, John Krasinski. He continues to do an excellent job directing both movies. Just such a well-shot film. He does great camera movements. And I can tell in this sequel, Krasinski is kind of stepping up his skills as a director. I'm glad to see that. And something I really liked about this sequel was how it did a great job continuing the story, is what a good sequel should do. I really like that we get to see the Abbott family move past their farm, seeing other survivors that have been affected by attack by the creatures, and it was also a good opportunity to expand the world building a bit, and that was interesting to see. Something I really like about both Quiet Place movies, Krasinski knows characters first, tension second. Both movies do a really good job taking its time to care about the characters until the situations where the creatures come and attack. You really do care about these characters. You don't want to see any of them die. The cast here is fantastic. Emily Blunt is excellent, like she was in the first movie. Great job at playing both the afraid, but also strong mother that is willing to protect her kids. And the two child actors, Noah Jupe and Millicent Simmons, are great. Especially Millicent Simmons, who gets a lot of time to shine in this sequel. And I am just amazed that not only is she deaf in real life, but also a young talent. And the new actor joining this sequel, Cillian Murphy, he is fantastic in this movie. I always thought he was a great and underrated actor in Christopher Nolan movies, like The Scarecrow in Batman Begins, Inception, and Dunkirk. And he plays a broken character and he's lost loved ones. Murphy does such a great job acting in this movie. The scenes between him and Millicent Simmons are some of my favorite parts of the film, and I really like the arc for his character. And there are some very intense sequences in this movie, especially at the opening, day one of the whole attack. Wow, that was just incredible. There is also another intense sequence where they're editing two parts together. One part is between Emily Blunt and Noah Jupe, and the other part is Cillian Murphy and Millicent Simmons. Both super well edited and very intense at the same time that had me gripping. And the intense use of sound is still intact. Really loved how it's used effectively to make it so suspenseful and gripping and engaging to watch. And I never felt like it was used as a gimmick. It definitely felt like it was used in such a unique way. However, the only minor issue I can think of in this sequel is I wanted more of certain characters in this movie, like Djimon Hounsou's character, who we meet in the middle of this film. I do feel like he was a bit underused in this movie for the scenes he was in. I wanted a little more from him. Overall, John Krasinski does it again by delivering an intense and satisfying sequel. Intense and suspenseful, great cast, great continuation of a story, and does exactly what a sequel should do. If there is more story to tell after this movie, I am interested. And if Krasinski is going to be back directing A Quiet Place 3, count me in. And this is so far my second favorite film I've seen so far this year, number one being The Mitchells vs. the Machines. And overall, I am going to give A Quiet Place Part 2 4.5 stars out of 5. An A. So worth the wait throughout the whole pandemic. Just so glad this sequel did not disappoint. If you feel comfortable going back to the movies, This is definitely worth watching in the theaters. And if you were satisfied with the first movie and excited for the sequel, do check it out. So what do you guys think of A Quiet Place Part 2? Do you agree? Disagree with me? Let me know below. Make sure to like this video, leave a comment, and subscribe if you're new here. It really means a lot. I'm Jack Benner, and look forward to another movie review.